The Alpha's Untamable Luna. Episode 12. Good. He responds quickly. He leans in and gives me another tender, reassuring kiss, saying, "You never have to be." When he pulls back, he says, "But you really do need to eat." I nod ruefully, knowing that I need every advantage I can get over Jarvis, even if it means having a full stomach. As Finn goes to shower, I take a seat at the counter and begin eating. I check the weather app on my phone at 3:56 a.m. and see that the sunrise time for today is 6:23 a.m. I'll be facing Jarvis in 2 hours and 27 minutes. It will be 2 hours and 27 minutes before anything changes. I'm not hungry, but I eat everything Finn gives me. Even though this food doesn't help me right now, I know that in 2 hours and 25 minutes I will be very grateful that I ate it all. After he takes a shower, Finn and I get back together and walk to his parents' house, where Miriam and Corwin are awake and appear to be waiting for us. They talk in low tones while hunched over their steaming coffee mugs on the sofa. The words Pack, Dahlia, Finn, and Jarvis are said a few times before they interrupt when Finn opens the front door. Like a mother bear to her cub, Miriam jumps on me right away. She wraps her tiny arms around my tall body and gives me a hug in return, and I am thankful for this familial connection during a time when I sorely need it. Miriam pulls away and cups my face in her hands, asking, "How are you?" "Rested." I just nod, and she squeezes both of my shoulders as if she's trying to reassure or instill confidence in me, which I believe she is doing somehow. I watch Nova and Sam come out from around the corner, where the kitchen archway is, as Miriam moves away. They both give me reassuring smiles, but they try their best to hide the fact that they are worried and exhausted, as if they have only just woken up. Nova pulls me into her customary bone-crushing embrace, to which I have now become accustomed, and says, "There she is, our champion." "Not yet," I tell her, giving her a close look as we separate. With a slightly upbeat tone, I respond, "But with any luck, yes." Strangely enough, Sam follows Nova closely and gives me a similarly bone-crushing embrace. I voluntarily give it back, feeling as though I might finally get the opportunity to truly experience sisterhood for the first time in my life. As she pulls back, Sam says with ease, "I know you're going to be great." Her features appear much less troubled, and her effortless confidence covers up any doubt I had previously noticed. Sam gives a cheeky grin and says, "I will definitely take personal pleasure in watching you put Jarvis in her place." Finn stands behind me and says in a low voice, "You're not the only one." As he sits down beside me, I feel his hand settle on the small of my back. Miriam lets out a sigh and then gives Finn a sharp look as if they both know something I don't. When Miriam says, "It's time to prepare," my heartbeat quickens a little at this cryptically ambiguous statement. Finn must have noticed the shift in me because he reaches out and wraps his hand around my waist and from the small of my back, grabbing my hip and drawing me in so he can kiss my temple. "It's customary for you to present yourself as the rightful Dreadmore Luna in challenges like this," he whispers into my ear. Even though he tries to sound light-hearted, I swallow back the lump in my throat as he says, "They'll help get you ready. Don't worry, you don't need to do anything except sit there and let them poke and prod at you." "Okay," I say, breathing shakily. I look at Miriam and ask, "Let's get this show on the road then, shall we?" She looks both proud and sad, and I believe that's exactly how she feels. Miriam, Sam, and Nova beckon me to Sam's bedroom. I'm sitting at the vanity dresser, looking at my reflection in the mirror in the dim lighting. Sam's side lamp is the only one on, and I'm kind of glad about that because I would probably look and feel much worse in full light. As the three women start working on me, I divert my attention. As Miriam makes a valiant effort to make sense of my tangled curls, Nova and Sam appear to have taken on the cosmetic side of things. I make an effort to keep my attention on everything but the approaching conflict, such as Sam's dark purple bedspread and the comforter's uneven flower stitching. After a brief moment of wondering if it was handmade, I consider Greta and how she most likely stitched this comforter together. Then I glance at the drawings and sketches that are displayed throughout Sam's room, a curvy woman's body sitting against a tree's base, her belly sticking out more than you would anticipate from a work of art. Thank you, distorted beauty standards. The delicate tip of her nose is the only part of her face visible, as her hair is in a thick braid and the tendrils have slipped out. A cold, damp sensation on my arm interrupts my meticulous examination of Sam's brush strokes on the woman's hips. I immediately glance down and see Sam holding a real paintbrush, the tip of which is dripping with dark black ink, to my arm. Sam looks up at me, her brown eyes almost exactly like her brother's, sad and cautious. She trails off, lowering her gaze to concentrate on her work. To signify your status as Luna, you would have got the same tattoo Finn has, but since the inking usually takes place in the days following the title night, but since Jarvis challenged you, she says. I smile when Sam says, well, you haven't exactly had a lot of free time, have you, in a light, even humorous, tone. Yeah, I say with a grim laugh. I laugh and feel Miriam pull firmly on my head. All my free time has been going into making sure she doesn't kill me, I say. When I look up into the mirror, I see Miriam's hard eyes fixed on the ponytail she has been attempting to smooth down for a few minutes. Ouch! I exclaim, startled. She says to me in a clipped voice, I would normally say sorry, but since you were talking about something utterly ridiculous, I am not going to. As Miriam turns her head in the light, I see the glassy reflection of tears bounce off her eyes, and I feel a wave of emotion wash over me. With a slight smile, I say, consider it forgiven. I agree, considering how terrible she must be feeling at the moment, that was a ridiculous thing to say. We are all so entangled in this, and there is no way that we can prevent the ripple effects of whatever happens tonight from affecting everyone in this house, not just me but Finn and her entire family. Sam's work is visible when I look back down, too thick. Jet golden black bands are now curling around my bicep. With the edge of her pinky, Sam fills them in, smoothing out the edges and erasing minor flaws. I wonder if this is also how she fixes errors in her paintings and drawings. The three of them are applying different brushes, inks, and other cosmetics to me, and I'm not sure how long I've been sitting there. However, I eventually come to the realization that they have all ceased their work, leaving their tools on the vanity in front of me. When I look up at their three faces in the mirror, I notice that they are all filled with the same feeling, trepidation. I then succeed in diverting my attention from them to the woman in the mirror, or rather, to myself. This woman's appearance makes me realize that I don't feel anything at all. Her forehead and sloping cheekbones are adorned with black streaks, and the top and bottom edges of her eyes are framed by white dots. The black and white inks also accentuate her neck, with the white dots running down the center and the black lines tracing the contour of her throat. Her eyelids are heavily lined in black, highlighting the whites of her eyes. This woman appears to be primal, even dangerous. She appears more than capable and prepared to take on any opponent. As I watch the woman in the mirror raise her hand to trace the black lines down her throat, I respond, "Oh." I look at the three women standing motionless behind me and say, "This is what you meant by preparing me." A tiny smile tugs at my lips. I give them a compliment, "You did well." Nova is the first to respond, and I can't help but laugh as her witty side shows through. "Well, if you have to walk into battle, it might as well be looking as badass as this." "Might as well," I say again, tracing the braid down the middle of my head with my fingers before it vanishes into a sleek, rounded bun. As I admire her efforts, Miriam watches me in the mirror and adds, "I am trying to give her as little to work with." I wonder briefly how much combat Miriam witnessed during her time as Dread Moraluna. She claims, "Long hair makes you vulnerable in a fight, especially with women. They're always the first to make a grab for the ponytail, they look for it." I nod in agreement, understanding that although this hairstyle is meant to represent my status, Miriam also made sure it serves as a protective mechanism for me. I say, observing a glimmer of admiration cross Miriam's face as I say, "It's perfect." I turn to face them and honestly say, "Thank you. All of you. I don't know how I would be navigating this whole situation if it wasn't for you." "Oh, Dahlia," Miriam says with a soft smile as her eyes go glassy once more. "We all just want this whole thing to go away and be over with. We would see you through 100 combat challenges if that's what it took." Sam adds, drawing a stern side-eyed look from her mother, which she quickly ignores, "and we would watch with nothing short of absolute satisfaction, 100 times over, as you hand Jarvis her on a silver platter. You got this, Luna Dahlia." I glance down at my bicep, which is surrounded by two thick, golden black bands that have nicely dried. These bands are exactly like fins, and I feel a great sense of pride and fulfillment that I am now genuinely acknowledged as being on par with him in every way. Miriam begins, "It might not be the real thing," as she reaches out and lightly runs her thumb over one of the black, golden bands. "But it counts just the same. You are our Dread Moraluna, Dahlia. Rightfully, that title is yours. It always will be, no matter the outcome." When I look up and see Miriam's eyes brimming with emotion, I can't resist giving her a firm embrace and getting up from my chair to do so. I merely say, "Thank you," as I feel her give me a gentle back rub, as mothers typically do. She suddenly sounds a lot like Sam, teasing, even mischievous, as she says in my ear, "Thank me after you've thrown her down in the dirt and walk out of there as Luna." There is a knock on the door, interrupting our conversation. The door opens just enough to reveal Corwin's face, and 4 heads and pairs of eyes turn to gaze. As he walks into the room, Corwin remarks, "It's almost 6 o'clock. We better make our way to the clearing." Everything inside of me feels cold all of a sudden, including my bones, blood, and lungs. I sense a hand land on my shoulder, then on my back, and finally on the other shoulder. Since they can see that a feather landing on my head could topple me at this moment, the 3 women behind me are supporting me, as though they're attempting to keep me upright on my own 2 feet. Miriam whispers, "It's time, sweetie. It's time for you to end this." Finn, it feels like I'm holding Dahlia's hand tighter than ever before, and I'm a little concerned that it might be stopping the flow. We move swiftly through the trees towards the clearing where the combat challenge will be held, but Dahlia retaliates just as fiercely. With nothing more to say than what we have already said, neither of us speaks. To be honest, I'm afraid that if I open my mouth to talk now, I might throw up. This is the most anxious I've ever been, even when I'm charging into combat. Instead of watching my mate battle for her life and title, I would much rather repel a pack of snapping wolves. The clearing is already crowded with onlookers when we arrive. There are crowds of people standing around the area, many of them with bleary eyes, and even more of them with angry and worried expressions. I am aware of how much my pack does not want this to occur. I am aware of how much they value and yearn for the constancy and dependability of our leadership here. Just as losing Dahlia is my nightmare, it is also their nightmare to have all of that potentially upheaved. Even though the sun hasn't arrived yet, the sky is getting lighter by the minute, and I can already tell that the challenge won't be here for long. Dahlia and I bid my family a brief farewell, and I can't help but cry when I see my mother, sister, and childhood best friend wrap their arms around her as though it were their last chance. I can't bear to think that these are our final moments together as mates, as true Alpha and Luna. It's simply too much for me to witness. When they part, Sam is among those who have tears streaming down their cheeks. However, I'm taken aback when Dahlia pulls away from them, her eyes barely more than a mist that quickly turns to icy emptiness. I can only assume that she is currently experiencing some sort of dissociation, such as an out-of-body experience. Right now, I don't think any of this feels real, and I don't think it will until she's in the ring with Jarvis tearing towards her like a wolf from hell. As we get closer to Nicole, who is standing at the top of the circled clearing with her white hair falling in its customary neat braid, Dahlia and I pause. After meeting mine, Nicole's grey eyes dart to Dahlia and then back to me. I read a question in her eyes. Is she prepared for this? I give Nicole a single nod, and she turns to Dahlia with a pitying expression, suggesting that she accepts this response voluntarily enough. Nicole takes Dahlia's hand in her own and says, "The Dreadmores are behind you, Luna, wholeheartedly. Please know that. Put her down." I like that Nicole doesn't waste time on politeness and gets right to the point when mentioning Jarvis. Just as simply, Dahlia responds, "I intend to." I notice a glimmer of admiration cross Nicole's face. Nicole tells us, "You two only have a few moments before dawn. Jarvis is bound to be here any moment now." I feel the anxiety that has been building inside of me intensify. Nicole joins the other elders who have gathered here and excuses herself. Without thinking, I turn to Dahlia, grab her face, and pull her lips to mine. I can feel Dahlia leaning into me with her hands on either side of my neck, seemingly unaffected by my sudden show of affection. I enjoy every tongue swipe against hers, every jolt of energy that travels between us as if our cells are responding to each other's presence. I make every effort to commit to memory the precise sensation of her lips beneath mine, the precise bending of her back as she lets herself melt against me. All of the subtle emotions that I haven't been giving enough thought to until now. I'm attempting to ingrain her into my body and mind so that I won't ever have to feel her absence, even if we part ways. I desire for her shadow to be adhered to my own, for her imprint to become a permanent part of me. After what must have been a minute-long kiss, we finally part ways, but I completely ignore the dozens and dozens of eyes that are staring at us from across the clearing. All I see is her, my Dahlia, my Luna. Now that she has her traditional paints on, she looks so strong that even I would be afraid to face her in a ring. When Jarvis sees Dahlia, I fervently hope that she is equally as shaken. Dahlia has laid her own hands on top of mine, her thumbs moving fluidly across them, and my hands are still on either side of her face. I close my eyes and listen to the sound of her shallow breathing while lowering my forehead to hers and pressing our faces together. In an effort to absorb as much of her scent as possible and commit it to memory as well, I try to slow my breathing. This way, if she is taken from me, I will be able to locate her no matter what. I barely have time to say, Dahlia, before she smothers me, pressing her forehead against mine while keeping her eyes squeezed shut. Then it occurs once more, I am being torn into memories that are not mine, both in space and time. Like a film, they flash through my mind in brief bursts, me plunging into the waterfall in the form of a massive black wolf, only to emerge as a man with a broad smile. Then I picture Dahlia and I in a tangle of limbs in front of the fireplace, having just finished making love, while I sleep soundly next to her. Here, I feel so wanted, so safe, and so loved. I am aware that Dahlia associates these feelings with the memories and that this is how she recalls them. In a single moment, dozens of memories come to life, all of them bringing only joy, safety, and love. Long nights spent under blankets of stars, playing and chasing each other as humans and as wolves, and hazy, sleepy mornings. The memories then start to change and evolve. They appear less distinct and sharp around the edges. This almost seems like a made-up memory, perhaps a made-up situation. In it, Dahlia walks across the clearing with assurance, her face showing nothing but triumph despite her bruises and unkempt appearance. With a broad smile on her face, she walks across the distance between us and gives me a tight hug as we both realize that this nightmare is over and that we can finally start living the lives we have been attempting to build. It seems like she keeps me in this mental image for a long time. It seems almost real because it's so long. I sense that the anxiety is subsiding and being replaced by relief, joy, and hope. We are truly celebrating as though she has truly won. In this visualization, I can practically feel her lips pressing against mine as she kisses me, a giggle escaping her lips as she separates from me. See. Dahlia's voice reverberates in my head like it's coming from a huge cathedral. She asks, "You had nothing to be worried about, did you?" in a way that almost makes me laugh. Then, as more of our pack gathers here, I hear and feel nothing but the gentle hum of voices and the soft earth beneath our feet before I'm completely torn out of the scene, as if I were being pulled inside out through a hoover. Dahlia's blue eyes, which appear as hard as steel and just as determined, are staring directly into my eyes when I open them. As I realize Dahlia is choosing to see only the reality in which we overcome this together, I feel my own confidence growing. I am aware that she is requesting no, insisting that I follow suit. I must do the same for her. She seems to understand exactly what I mean when I nod in response to the curious expression in her eyes. The crowd's clamor suddenly subsides to hardly more than a murmur, and I can feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up straight. A low growl rumbles past my wolf's muzzle, causing him to instinctively raise his haunches and show his teeth. He is aware of his foe's presence. Jarvis walks slowly through the crowd, and Dahlia and I both turn to stare at the same moment. Her blonde hair is pulled back into a tight ponytail braid, highlighting her face's sharp features. She is dressed in a white cut-off t-shirt and camouflage cargo pants that fall low on her hips. The corners of her mouth are smirking. As she walks past Dahlia and me, her chin raised proudly in the air, I fight the urge to wipe a smirk from her face. With her eyes narrowing like a hawk on its prey, Jarvis turns on her heel and faces Dahlia. My wolf growls louder, pleading with me to take all necessary precautions to keep his mate safe. Got it, I am Alpha, so he wants me to step in, and stop this whole charade. When Jarvis steps closer to us, I let out a growl, but Dahlia just takes my hand in hers while maintaining eye contact with Jarvis. Dahlia says to her, "Jarvis." Her voice is even and devoid of any hint of emotion. Jarvis looks at our clasped hands, and her grin appears to widen. Jarvis gives us a sweet smile and says, "I truly hope you savor these last moments." I ball my fist at my side as my vision turns red and I feel a tremor of anger running through me as my wolf threatens to come out. I force him back down, controlling my emotions as Dahlia's hand encircles mine as a reminder. I'm needed by her. Right now. Dahlia dismisses Jarvis with such casualness that I have to do a double take. Leave us. Jarvis struggles to think of a way to respond, looking at her with nothing less than outrage. But when it comes to the pack's authority, she is aware that she cannot. Even though Dahlia is still Luna at the moment, Jarvis must follow her instructions. As Jarvis continues to march off towards her side of the circle, I turn to my mate with renewed respect as she spins around in a huff. When Dahlia turns back to face me, I notice that her eyes are glimmering with emotion for the first time this morning. Dahlia's voice falters as she says, "Finn," and I quickly take advantage of the little time we have left to embrace her and hold her to my chest while feeling her body blend against mine. In the minute we are locked in our fierce embrace, I tell myself 1,000 things, but I still can't let go of her. I'm pulled out of my reverie by the sensation of a gentle, slightly chilly hand on my shoulder. I open my eyes to see Nicole's cautious voice speaking to me. "I'm sorry, but the sun is about to crest. Please, if you would, Luna." Alpha, her silver eyes are staring at me with regret and worry for what she is asking me to do. "Finn," says Dahlia softly. "It's okay." She tries to back away, but my grip is still locked in place and I can feel the panic rising in my throat. Her voice is too confident and steady as she says, "I have to go." How is she able to maintain her composure now? As my chest tightens in the worst way and my wolf hangs his head in complete defeat, her hard blue eyes meet mine and say, "You have to let me go." After everything, how can I bring myself to let her go? I shake my head, telling myself that this isn't about me, after waiting so long to find her and having her almost taken away from me twice already. It's about her. What she requires. I pull back enough to put my forehead against hers and stare into her eyes, seeing only determination and sheer will. "Fine." I say. I say without hesitation, but this is the last time I ever do. For a brief moment, Dahlia's blue eyes soften, and I can see the same amused expression in them. She smiles slightly and says, "Deal." My throat tightens as she leans into me for what might be the last time, completing her promise with a warm, tender kiss that disappears before I can even remember to savor it. Jarvis also heads to the center, while Dahlia and Nicole turn and cross the area. My family members' hands are wrapped around me on either side, drawing me back to the area's edge. My dad's hand is on my shoulder, squeezing once firmly, while my mother leans into me. Sam clings to Greta's side, watching anxiously as she clutches my other hand. Nicole's voice reverberates through the deserted clearing to the ring of people encircling her. "Today, we have gathered to bear witness to this challenge between Jarvis Klassen and Dahlia Winters." Nicole doesn't try to hide her obvious dislike for Jarvis, and several members of my pack do too, as I hear dozens of gravelly growls at the mention of the challenger. The challenge being to obtain both Luna Dahlia's title and position in the Dreadmore pack, for herself, Jarvis. The chorus includes my own growl, and I'm proud to see that my entire family has joined in as well. As Nicole extends her hands in a calming gesture, the growl becomes softer. Nicole concludes by outlining the ground rules, and as the two women square off in the center of the ring, I feel my stomach twisting into more knots. The rules are as follows: there is to be no armor, no weapons except that of what is readily available in your environment, and opponents may choose to be in either form at any time. The challenge will cease when one has overpowered the other, forcing them to yield. Upon yielding, the victor shall decide the fate of their opponent, to rejoin the pack as a loyal, obedient member, or permanent, immediate, exile. Begin. I watch as Jarvis hurls herself at Dahlia, hitting hard and fast, a guttural sound coming from her throat, and the word is said just as the sun is peeking over the horizon. Dahlia reacts a little slowly, but she is able to stutter out of the way just in time to avoid getting struck by the angry blonde's swinging fist. That doesn't stop Jarvis, she continues without hesitation. Dahlia is attacked by Jarvis in a barrage of ways, with her elbows and fists flying up at a frightening rate. Dahlia does a good job of deflecting the most lethal blows, but some of Jarvis's other blows do get through, and I automatically jump forward when I see Dahlia take a hard blow to the face. Once more, my family's hands prevent me from getting involved. As Dahlia and Jarvis gather themselves, evaluating each other, keeping their feet light and ready to move, Dahlia wipes the first drop of blood from her lip. Dahlia laughs lightly and asks Jarvis, "Is that all you got?" Jarvis's eyes light up with a newfound fervor at the taunt. As Dahlia is pushed back towards the far end of the clearing by Jarvis's explosive lunge at her, I can feel my heart in my throat. Every time Jarvis tries to strike, Dahlia leans and ducks, dancing out of the way as we all watch. Riley clearly did a good job of enhancing Dahlia's defensive strategies. Dahlia turns the tables by returning a few blows of her own and having them land 2 to the face and 1 to the kidney, and Jarvis is becoming increasingly irritated. Jarvis is knocked to the ground by the kidney shot, and I can feel my wolf snapping his muzzle in satisfaction. Taking advantage of Jarvis's vulnerability, Dahlia snatches her braided ponytail, pulls her head back, and then kicks her viciously in the ribs. A characteristic cracking sound is heard, and Jarvis screams in agony. Dahlia takes a step back, realizing she just cracked at least 1 or 2 of Jarvis's ribs, and her breathing becomes labored and uneven. Jarvis grits her teeth and pushes herself off the ground as she struggles to stand. In the same motion, she spins around on Dahlia, her hand flying out to suddenly grab Dahlia's throat. Ack! I hear Dahlia's breath becoming trapped in her throat as Jarvis's fingers tighten around it, forcing her back a few steps. My fists ball up at my sides as my body becomes as rigid as a board and my blood starts to boil. Before I can stop it, I feel a growl in my chest, and my vision becomes slightly pink. I feel my relatives looking at me anxiously, but I ignore them, lowering my jaw and maintaining my gaze on Dahlia and Jarvis. With a forceful blow to the tops of her forearms, Dahlia briefly breaks Jarvis's hold, allowing Dahlia to hook her ankle around Jarvis's and pull it out from under her, just like she had done to me during our spar. My wolf, eager for his mate to kill her, barks in approval as Jarvis collapses to the ground in a pile of dust. Dahlia, however, is unable to see through the dust in time to move aside. She is crouching low as Jarvis charges at her, yelling in an animalistic manner. Jarvis' shoulder slams into Dahlia's stomach as she is violently knocked backwards. At the same time that I hear Dahlia's lungs exploding, I feel my stomach turn over. Suddenly, I feel unbalanced, and I have to close my eyes to get my bearings. A second later, I open my eyes to find Dahlia pinned down by Jarvis. As Jarvis strikes Dahlia's face 3 times with his fists, I feel my ribs tighten around my lungs. Under Jarvis, Dahlia wriggles violently, and I watch with a glimmer of hope as Jarvis lets go of one of Dahlia's arms. I notice the glint of surprise on Jarvis's face as she realizes Dahlia is far more powerful than she initially thought. "You bitch, you're right. You are not as strong as she is." When the time comes, Dahlia quickly gets herself off the ground and pushes Jarvis away from her. Jarvis swings his elbow towards her face, and she turns just in time to see it. Dahlia ducks just a hair's breadth away. Jarvis yells at Dahlia, "You're not one of us," as she tries to kick Dahlia in the stomach, her anger apparently reignited. Dahlia avoids the move once more, her movements surprisingly graceful and fluid. Her body now appears to be effortlessly following the fight's rhythm. Jarvis, meanwhile, appears more hurried and disorganized, her emotion getting in the way of her accuracy. Dahlia responds effortlessly, "Oh, but I am." Jarvis, who is 20 feet away, looks almost amused as her blue eyes drop to the 2 golden black ink bands on her bicep. Knowing that Dahlia has accepted her actual role in the pack makes me feel a wave of pride. Jarvis, whose voice is filled with the same simmering rage I have for her, clenches her teeth and says, "Ink on your arm doesn't make you a Luna." Dahlia's eyes light up with what I can only describe as pure satisfaction, and her lips combine into a mocking grin. Dahlia nods, her gaze suddenly meeting mine from the other side of the clearing. "No, you're right." For a brief moment, I notice a glimmer of adoration in her eyes, indicating that she shares my emotions. Her gaze then quickly returns to Jarvis. An alpha does. Even from this distance in the foggy morning light, Jarvis can see the change in Dahlia's eyes as soon as she says those 3 words. Her breathing becomes deep, rough, and guttural as the muscles in her throat and neck all tense. Dahlia encourages Jarvis, "Do it. Come on. P1. Dahlia shook her head, saying, "Show me just how much more you deserve this. Show me how much more you deserve him." That's what this is all about, isn't it? Your silly little puppy crush, Dahlia continues, in a tone that betrays disappointment, as she takes a few steps towards Jarvis. I can tell that Jarvis is just a few seconds away from shifting because she is starting to shake. When she answers, her tone is gritty and low. I would be a better Luna. And a better mate. I would, she continues. You were never supposed to be here. Jarvis trembles more violently, and Dahlia retreats a few paces, much to my relief. As if counseling a child, Dahlia states simply, and yet, here I am. Jarvis yells, no, as the sound rips through her chest and bursts into her four-legged transformation into a yellow-beige wolf with a white stripe down her spine. As she slowly raises her head and fixes her gaze on her target in front of her, Jarvis stands there, her gravelly trousers slipping out of her. Dahlia, I know she's pursuing me right now, so I don't wait to see her leap off the ground in my direction. As it approaches the treeline at the far end of the clearing, I start to run. This is the best course of action because I can try to improvise using these trees and there aren't any pack members on this side who could be caught in the crossfire. As I get to the end of the clearing, I can actually hear Jarvis running after me, her haggard trousers escaping. My mind spins wildly, attempting to determine which option is best. I slightly alter my plan after spotting a cedar tree that seems appropriate and place it in front of me. I locate the precise location I must seize in order to have any chance of making it by looking at the lowest branch that is dangling down. With a grunt of effort, I jump off the ground and scramble up the slick bark of the tree, then grab hold of a big knot in the branch. I quickly get to my feet, swing my legs back and forth, and stand on the branch, reaching for the next one above. Jarvis crashes into the tree's base just as I get a firm hold on the second branch. She climbs up onto her hind legs and snaps her enormous teeth at me from 3 feet below. After that, I haul myself up onto the next branch. Jarvis's attempts to scramble up in her wolf form are unsuccessful, and she is left at the base. She is pacing in a circle at the base of the tree, clearly frustrated. I look around in the hope that what I want is up here, trying to separate the crowded cedar branches from one another. I search among the branches for a minute or two, balancing effortlessly and holding on to the branches as instinctively as if they were steering wheels. As a child, I spent hours upon hours climbing numerous trees. This used to be my playground, but now it serves as both my battlefield and my advantage. Yes. I murmur to myself as I spot the ideal decayed branch protruding from the side of a larger main branch. I grip the branch above me for balance as my other hand closes around the end of the rotting limb, my foot placed at the base of it. With as much force as I can muster, my foot comes crashing down onto the nearly dead branch, yanking it back with my hand to act as a counterforce. The limb snaps off the branch with a satisfying crack and lands in my hand. It is long, smooth, and has a nice, jagged point where I snapped it. The tree trembles beneath my feet, throwing me off balance. Whoa! I stutter backward, reaching for a branch hold out of instinct to steady myself. When I look down, I see Jarvis taking a few steps backwards before exploding at the tree and turning just in time to ram her shoulder into it. Even though I'm steady, I know I need to leave this place quickly because the tree is rocking hard again. She will continue until this thing crashes, and I would rather take the chance of leaving on foot, voluntarily, then be trapped 30 feet up with the ground rushing towards me. I carefully descend the tree, holding my new weapon firmly in my right hand. With only 15 feet left, I pause, attempting to slow my breathing sufficiently to make Jarvis unsure of my location. Perched directly above her in the dread moors, I watch as Jarvis's dog self looks up at the branches, tilts her head slightly, and then lets out a frustrated sigh of hot air. As Jarvis paces steadily beneath me, shaking her large head as though debating what to do next, I clench my jaw. I don't want to hurt her, so there's a tiny part of me that wants to hold off. Well, not really. I only wanted to find my place here without upsetting anyone, and I never wanted us to become rivals, enemies, or opponents. But then I realize all that's involved, all that I stand to lose if I don't take this action. I also recall how unrepentant she appeared when she had the chance to back out of her challenge to me, but she chose not to. She had the opportunity to let this happen and stop it, but she chose not to. Because she is not hesitant about any of this in the slightest. I inhale deeply and jump off the branch, securing myself with that fragment of truth. I speed down towards Jarvis as the air rushes past me. I barely have a second or two to get my weapon's sharp end to touch Jarvis's shoulder's exposed flesh, but I manage to do so. With a satisfying squish sound, the spear sinks several inches into her flesh as I land on her back. Before she rears up and flings me off her back, Jarvis throws her head back and cries in excruciating pain. The wind knocks me out a little as I land hard on the grass. With the spear still embedded in her flesh, Jarvis is limping heavily as I clamber back onto my hands. Her large, dark eyes narrow in disgust as they meet mine. I return the glance, getting to my feet and dismissing myself. Now that we are at least 50 feet apart, I am a little taken aback when Jarvis starts running in my direction. Her stride is strangely strong, but her gait is strange and awkward, the spear still in her shoulder. I will concede that she is a tough cookie. I brace myself and start moving in her direction, accelerating until I'm running. As the gap between us gets closer and closer, I wait for the ideal opportunity to jump towards her and phase as I go. I enjoy the sensation of my muscles and bones extending to their maximum length as the well-known burn travels down my spine and down my limbs. The sting of her teeth scraping my face, however, reminds me that this is far from over as I collide with Jarvis in midair within a half-second of shifting. She won't go down that easily, even though I may have hurt her. I'm on top of her when we fall to the ground in a heap, and she rolls away before I can get a chance to snatch at her nicely bare elbow. I'm briefly crushed beneath her massive frame, and I manage to pull myself free before turning around in time to catch a glimpse of her pointed teeth gleaming in the early morning light. I avoid her bite and instead strike her upper left leg with one of my own, breaking the bone like a twig. Jarvis lets out a yelp and staggers backward, her stability and balance gone. I have to take advantage of her weakness now because I know it will be healed in a minute, maybe 90 seconds at most. Jarvis flies back, landing on the ground in a tangle of limbs, as I lunge at her and thrust my enormous shoulder into her chest. As my wolf takes pleasure in witnessing her enemy's pain, suffering, and progress towards victory, I charge at her with my head lowered and my teeth exposed. Jarvis snaps her teeth and growls back at me, demonstrating that despite her weakness, she is not afraid of me. She picks herself up off the ground and looks down at me, almost pleading with me to hit again, to give it my all. Jarvis suddenly takes the lead, and despite my best efforts to move aside, the cunning bitch manages to pin my tail, yanking me back like a dog chained to a post. Jarvis is already waiting and poised when I fall backwards, and she bites into the exposed flesh of my stomach. Jarvis's teeth are still buried in me as she shakes her head like I'm a chew toy, maximizing the damage her puncture wounds cause. I let out a yelp as the pain shoots through my body. Jarvis's enormous paws have me pinned down as I attempt to roll back over to escape, and she pulls her head back to take another bite. I believe the main reason the second time is more painful is that I have to watch her get closer to me for what seems like an eternity. Once more, her teeth sink in, a little higher this time. I realize with a chill that if I don't act quickly, she might pierce my heart or lung with her next bite. Every time my heart beats, I can feel the blood pulsing out of my open wounds. I see a burning kind of rage there that I've only ever seen once before, on the faces and in the eyes of the striker wolves. Jarvis lets go of her hold and looks down at me. Murderous fury. She will attempt to murder me. She doesn't want me to give in. I don't believe that was ever her intention in the first place. I must be totally removed so that she can replace me as Luna and never have to fear being challenged herself. She wouldn't be satisfied with exile. I would still be here, I would still be alive, and Finn would still be drawn to me every day despite our physical separation. That would never be acceptable to her. Now I see it. Without any chance of him being taken away, she needs him all to herself. Finn would fight for me and nothing else in this world during his lifetime. She isn't stupid, Finn and I are aware of this, even though she hasn't yet found her true love. I yelp again as another wave of pain rips through my body as Jarvis dives in again, her teeth digging into my side and upper shoulder this time. Dahlia. I can't find him, but I hear his voice calling out to me. The blood loss is blurring my vision, and although my body is doing its best to recover, Jarvis's constant attacks aren't giving it much of a chance. She's going to kill her. At the same moment that another bite is given, and this one is worse than the others put together, I recognize Nova's voice. I let out a loud yelp and feel my head loll back as I almost pass out. I realize that because my breathing is now too ragged and rapid to keep up with, Jarvis probably did just what I was afraid she would. She tore a hole in my lung. He calls out for me once more, Dahlia, and I want to reassure him that everything is fine and that he need not worry about me. He must concentrate on the strikers, the pack, and all the nonsense they plan to use against us. We cannot interfere, Finn. She's going to die, Dad. Dahlia must do this on her own. You must let her. The blood still pouring out of me makes it harder to hear their voices. It feels the same whether Jarvis is actively attacking me or if she has simply abandoned me to retch on the ground. As the darkness closes in around me, I feel like I'm slipping away a bit, my thoughts becoming more difficult to focus on, and my brain barely processing what I'm going through at the moment. Does it really end like this? Is this the result of every decision I've made in my life? Every timing decision, every chance event, and every combination of good and bad luck? Was it all for nothing? How is that possible? Given that I still have a lot of life left in me, how could it be? I've seen life, moments, and memories that I know are waiting for me. Within Finn, myself, and our shared love and devotion. How is it possible for us to have everything and then lose it all to this? To her? To the blonde bitch who was out to get me from the beginning. Dahlia, something flickers inside of me and starts to stir. It feels like a stream of heat blooming in my chest, but that's the best way I can describe it. I can feel the heat getting stronger and stronger until it's nearly unbearable. I believe that this would hurt in a different way if I wasn't already in pain. In addition to the pain, there is a certain kind of relief or pleasure that goes along with it. All of a sudden, my breathing seems to be leveling out, normalizing. Even though Jarvis has retreated, I should be almost dead by now, so this isn't possible. Why am I feeling better? The sharp throbbing in my head has subsided to a dull groan, and I can feel the energy returning to my body. I gradually regain awareness of my surroundings. The damp morning grass feels like it's pressing against my cheek beneath me. I can smell the clean ocean air, but it doesn't take long for the smell of blood, my own, of course, to overpower me. I make the effort to open my eyes at last, and every second that goes by feels a little bit easier. Still in her wolf form, Jarvis's blurry outline is visible to me. Her eyes are fixed on me as she stands 5 feet away from me, her muzzle entirely rust-stained with my blood. She pulls her muzzle back into a wolfish smirk when I look into her eyes. I promise. I can tell that Finn is standing there because Jarvis's large head turns around. Though my vision is getting better every second, I still can't see him clearly. His eyes are fixed on me, and with concentration and effort, I can make out his face among those of his relatives. His urgent whisper reaches my ears, "C'mon baby, c'mon." The sound makes my heart ache. His begging tone pulls at my bond with him once more, and I feel my wolf start to stir. "You gotta get up, Dahlia. You gotta get up." I feel more determined than ever, and the burning pain only gets worse until it feels like a firework going off inside of me. All at once, there is too much to handle, too much to understand, and too much heat, pain, and relief. Uncontrollably, I feel my body start to tremble and spasm, with a stream of fire traveling down my spine, down all of my limbs, and all the way up to the top of my head. I'm not sure how it happens, but I've been mind-linked to Jarvis all of a sudden. I can see, hear, and sense her emotions. I see Finn standing on the other side of her, surrounded by his family, his face twisted into a look of pure destruction. She believes she has triumphed, and I feel proud of her. "Little Dahlia, you're not long for this world anymore?" I want to rip her tail off because her inner monologue keeps repeating in my head. I'll be declared the winner, and after I decide to exile her, I'll reclaim my place in the pack. I have a flashing mental image of Jarvis biting me, but from her point of view. She's thinking of the perfect way to kill me. I was correct, she had no intention of allowing me to survive, much less triumph. Long ago, she made the decision that I would die in this combat challenge. My body seems to suddenly jolt back awake, and I find my legs beneath me and get to my feet. The dull pain is still there, but it's much better than it was when I slowly raise my head. My lungs are taking in their first real breath of air in a few minutes, and I can feel them expanding beautifully. I can taste the sweetness of the air now. This time, the energy, the heat is still rushing through me, but it doesn't shock my system as much. It feels like my veins are tingling with electricity now that my body has had the time it needed to adjust. How on earth is she getting to her feet? The same thought that goes through my mind also goes through Jarvis's. I can sense the underlying anxiety growing in her, the doubt and complete bewilderment over how I am apparently returning from her almost fatal attack. A growl ripples through me as I dig my toes into the ground and prepare to throw everything I have at her. I pull my muzzle back, revealing my big, razor-like teeth to Jarvis. As soon as I do, I see Jarvis's eyes enlarge significantly, and I can feel her astonishment and surprise as she realizes how far this fight has come. I rush towards her as though I have endless time, and as she makes a valiant effort to escape me, my mouth finds the ideal spot to bite down on her back leg. But I'm too quick, and I get close in a split second, and when I hear the distinctive crunch of her back leg breaking, I'm overcome with pride. Jarvis lets out a yelp, suddenly turning on me and turning her head around to try to get my front leg in her muzzle. However, I could see and feel her making that choice before she did, so I knew she was going to do it. I have no idea how this is possible, but now I am fully aware of every thought and action she takes. When her teeth finally snap down on thin air, I've already gotten away from her, so Jarvis misses her shot by a wide margin. I tighten my grip on the branch that is still in her shoulder and tear it off, letting the blood spill out. Now that's out of the way, she should soon experience the blood loss. She then chooses to try to grab one of my ankles, pulling my feet out from under me in order to get me to the ground. Before she even decides to move in for the hit, I dance out of her way. I choose to give her a taste of her own medicine instead, holding her down long enough to bite her bare stomach. My wolf enjoys the knowledge that her opponent is doomed to fail, and the soft flesh snaps easily under the force of my jaw. I can sense Jarvis's anxiety growing, the agony my bite is causing her, and the terrible realization that she might not emerge victorious from this. Jarvis slides out from under me, and even though she manages to get away, she doesn't assume I'll be prepared for the bite she intends to give my shoulder. Once more, using my own skull as a weapon, I stopped her in her tracks with a forceful blow to the head, knowing what she was going to do before she had done it. Given the throbbing I was experiencing earlier, I anticipate pain on my end, but it doesn't materialize. I feel as though my head has struck a feather pillow. Jarvis lets out a soft whine and shakes her head as she stumbles back from the impact. Her back leg hasn't healed yet, and her punctured shoulder and abdominal wound are still bleeding steadily. She's getting weaker by the second, so I need to do as much damage as I can. How is this possible? It's illogical. I'm a better fighter, so I had the advantage. This is impossible, she seems to be in my head. As her whirling thoughts flit through my own head, I laugh like a wolf. Since I am, I respond with ease. When she hears my answer, Jarvis loses all concentration and her eyes enlarge to the size of dinner plates. I savor every second of her reaction as she becomes increasingly aware of how ruined she will be as a result of this. I use her distraction to my advantage and attack like a snake, clamping down on her two front legs quickly, relishing the crunching sounds as they break. I would be lying if I claimed that the sound of Jarvis's howl of pain didn't make me feel guilty. Once more, I had no desire to be here. I never wanted to witness any humiliation or pain to any Dreadmore member. However, she repeatedly made the deliberate choice to see this through to the very end. It simply never occurred to her that she would lose. Jarvis is a pitiful sight, with 3 of her legs now broken and her abdominal wound not even halfway healed. She has now fallen to the ground, and I act swiftly to keep her there. Remembering exactly who this opponent is and what she meant to take from us, I stand above her, her 2 front legs broken and pinned beneath my enormous paws, my chest heaving as I feel my wolf's rage rising like a rocket. Give! I give the order, putting a lot of weight on her limbs while letting out a bark. No! I graze the fur and snap my teeth at her throat in warning as Jarvis's defiant tone echoes in my mind. Give! Jarvis lets out another long howl of pain as I obey, pressing my weight down this time and holding it there for a few seconds. Who are you? How do you hear me? Jarvis's thoughts are waning now, in some way, they seem farther away. I slightly increase my weight because I know she's probably on the verge of fainting and I want her to stay conscious long enough to submit to me. As the legitimate Dreadmoraluna, I am Dreadmoraluna. That's how. I choose to say that even though I have no idea if it is true. At this point, I don't care, I'll say anything I can to convince her that this title is mine. Even if it's a bunch of nonsense. However, he was meant to be mine. I can feel the complete loss she feels for Finn, and I hear her words bounce off the walls of my mind, defeated and downtrodden. She's in agony. She recognized who I was to him, and she has been in mourning ever since she saw him and me together in the town square that day. Memories and images suddenly flash through my mind at a fast pace, but slowly enough for me to fully process them. Even though it is only 10 seconds long, it feels like you are watching a full-length film about Jarvis' life. Jarvis had an absent mother who only ever showered her with praise for her appearance. In her early years, her mother only showed her love and affection because she was beautiful. And if a hair-out location existed? For heaven's sake, how could she ever find the ideal partner who would run around like that? Whether it was the state of her bedroom or her offensive maneuvers, which he forced her to repeat repeatedly until her muscles memorized the movement and she was unable to move even then, she wasn't enough. Her father, a lieutenant in both his pack and his family, demanded perfection from her every day. He had high expectations, even at that time. Years and years of continual humiliation, reminders that no matter how well she performed, she would never win his approval. Alpha Finn next. A man with all the authority in her pack, he was powerful, intimidating, and unafraid. He had complete control over her life. To give her purpose, to make her more than the most attractive person in the pack or the daughter of the lieutenant whom everyone secretly detested. He was a promise of something greater and better than Jarvis could have imagined, and Finn was a safe place to land. A man who could support and care for her, her kids, and a safe place away from her parents. She would be the Luna by Finn's side. She'd be free at Finn's side. Then I came along and ruined it all. What did I do? That person never deserved to be here. Withstand an arbitrary surprise attack, only to be foolish or uncoordinated enough to trip into Dreadmore territory. The only thing that has changed since Finn was abruptly torn away is the appearance of this foolish curly-haired she-wolf, who wasn't even supposed to be here. She is not a Dreadmore, she is not a part of the pack's history, life, memories, or community. What makes her believe she is a good fit for Alpha? What made her believe she would be a good fit for the Dreadmores? In a matter of seconds, all of this strikes a chord with me, and I feel as though my entire perspective of Jarvis has changed as a result of this new understanding. Jarvis, he was never meant to be yours. Now that I know where all of her anger and disgust towards me really originate, I gently tell her this. However, there is still someone out there who is waiting, wondering, and hoping just like you, and they are meant to be yours. And you are fully capable of going and locating them. Jarvis's eyes seem to dart past me, absorbing this information, and then return to me, bewildered and dejected. Only if we put an end to this. She makes a low growl in her chest when I remind her, which seems to rekindle her rage. You are not my Luna, please. A part of me appreciates her candor and directness. At least I never have to question whether she feels the same way about me. I'm not really interested in having you as a member. In the same tone, I respond. For a brief moment, Jarvis's stern eyes soften, and I notice a glimmer of interest in them. How does it feel to locate them? Your partner? As in? I trail off, letting out a brief sigh before moving on. Like the first time in your life you've ever come home to yourself. As if you've finally realized why everything transpired the way it did. In this effortless fashion, everything just begins to fit together. It's calm and safe, and you don't doubt that this is the right choice for you because you know deep down that this person is yours. Jarvis seems to take in my description in a different way. Her eyes are now gentle, and I get a jealous jolt. However, I understand that it is merely envy and not true jealousy. Desire. Jarvis was prepared to kill me in order to fulfill her lifelong desire to love and be loved. I no longer particularly like her, but I can at least see her point of view now that I understand her. But Jarvis, you have to give way. You are aware that it is the proper course of action for both the pack and yourself. They shouldn't be asked to put up with their alpha losing his mate. Don't request that their stability be altered. I make an effort to appeal to Jarvis's pack loyalty. I need to remind her that her decision to contest my title is affecting a great number of people, even though I know she could not give a damn about my fate. As she considers my point, I see flashes of various faces in my mind. Jarvis's mind. As she realizes that she probably will have turned strangers into enemies and friends into strangers by doing this, I can feel a wave of sadness and realization pass over her. After this, I won't have anything left here. Despite the fact that Jarvis sounds completely defeated, my wolf isn't celebrating it the way she would have 10 minutes ago. You will still have your family, so that isn't totally accurate. I look for the bright side, even if it's a tiny one and probably not silver in Jarvis's eyes. All I need to know is her mental scoff. Absolutely, since they are truly worth staying for. Then, as a sequence of pictures flashes through Jarvis's head, I can immediately tell what she's thinking. I feel a wave of surprise, and Jarvis's eyes meet mine with fresh insight. Are you certain? Do you truly want this? In need of some tangible proof that this is indeed what she wants me to do, I ask her. Jarvis gives a big head nod. Even though I know I don't deserve it, I swear that after this, you won't hear from me ever again. I consider the possibilities for a moment, but in the end, I decide because of Jarvis's complete sense of emptiness. Okay, so I, Dahlia Winters, Dreadmore Luna, hereby declare Jarvis Klassen to be immediately and permanently exiled. Now that her bones have healed, I let go of Jarvis and let her get to her feet. She is only an inch shorter than I am, and we are almost eye level. Jarvis bows and lowers her large head to me before getting to her feet and briefly looking into my eyes. I no longer see anger, instead, I see what could be referred to as tolerance. Thank you. Jarvis then jogs off in the direction of the clearing's far end. The crowd disperses to make room for her, and as she moves on, her massive, lumbering frame dwarfs them and she vanishes into the shadows of the trees. For a few seconds, silence envelopes us all. Given how abruptly the tone shifted from combative to amicable, I'm sure that everyone who witnessed my interaction with Jarvis is a little perplexed. I hear him say, "Dahlia," and my head turns to face him as our gazes lock across the deserted clearing. My heart feels so light in my chest that I question whether it is there at all as I start to trot towards him. Now that the challenge is over, my title, my place in the pack, and my relationship with Finn are all still in place. Everything is all right. We succeeded. Finn's strength, even in this form, surprises me when he throws his arms around my neck and crushes me to him when we meet at the edge of the clearing. He lets me go and then frantically searches my side, running his hands through my blood-stained fur, but he can't find anything. Are you hurt? I know you're hurt. I watched her rip a hole into you, for sakes, he exclaims. How are you? You're fine. His bewildered and amazed gaze meets mine, and I shrug my shoulders and remark, seems like it. Finn gives a head shake. He doesn't finish his sentence, his throat tightening with emotion. Jesus, Dahlia, you have to tell me what the hell happened. I thought you were going to, he says. I whine softly, and then I see movement out of the corner of my eye. Corwin is cautiously approaching, with something in his hand. He hands Finn a drawstring bag and says, "Here, for you, Dahlia." Nova packed a bag. I yell with laughter because, of course, only Nova would have thought to pack extra clothes for me in case I changed during the fight. I believe this is the reason Finn smiles softly as well. He looks at me and jerks his chin in the direction of the tree-lean shadow behind us. I follow him as he leads the way into the privacy of the trees, saying with a new lightness in his voice, "Let's get you back on two legs." I transform back into my human form after we've left the clearing by a few dozen steps, and before I can even speak, Finn is on me. Given how nearly we lost each other, I can only give him back in kind when his mouth seizes mine with utter possessiveness and hunger. I'm losing this. Finn's eyes light up with relief and pride as we part ways, and I can't help but laugh giddy, feeling like we've just slayed our white whale. It was an angry she-wolf with a desire to kill, but it wasn't a whale. Finn's inquiries are coming out of him at a breakneck speed. How did you get her to yield? You chose to exile her, too? Did you know you were going to do that ahead of time? He looks for hints in my face, but I know he probably sees the same thing I do, sincere bewilderment. I take the clothing bag from him and begin dressing, saying, I wasn't going to exile her, no, but then, I confess this to him, feeling increasingly uncertain about this strange ability I've acquired. We mind-linked, somehow. I saw what she was thinking, I saw how she wanted to kill me. Hell, she was going to kill me. As I pull the t-shirt over my head and put on a basic pair of blue jeans, Finn's eyes watch me closely. He is obviously thinking about what I said to him because his hand is on his chin and he is rubbing it thoughtfully. That shouldn't have been possible. You were two dueling wolves. Even if of the same pack, dueling wolves are never meant to be able to mind link. They are enemies, rivals, foe. He wanders off, seemingly talking more to himself than to me. How could you have broken through one of the few hard lines we have, as wolves? One of the universal traits of our kind, he mutters. I shake my head in disappointment, lacking the will or energy to give this much careful consideration at this time. Now that this whole ordeal is over, I just want to relax because I'm tired. I put my hands over his face and draw him closer. Finn, I don't have answers for you, but it doesn't really matter right now. It's over, baby, she's gone, and she isn't coming back. I exclaim with happiness that defies description. As he laughs, Finn's eyes catch the sunlight and become a vivid golden brown. He puts his hands on my waist and says, "You were pretty incredible, Luna Dahlia." I smile knowingly and wrap my hands around his neck. I laugh as his face shifts, remembering the scene I had imagined for him before Jarvis and I confronted him. See? What did I tell you? You didn't have anything to be worried about. A shadow falls and darts across the left side of Finn's face, revealing a bird soaring overhead, and he shakes his head with a smile tugging at his lips. I craned my neck for more as his lips ghosted over mine. You're the most determined, formidable woman I've ever seen. You have my respect, my admiration, and my heart. I gasp as his teeth carefully and precisely brush against my throat. His lips gently but firmly grab mine, and he leaves too soon after saying, "I'm so proud of you, baby. We need to get back though, they're all waiting." I nod and hastily get myself together, attempting to look as presentable as possible after almost dying in front of several thousand people. With our hands clasped together, Finn guides me back to the clearing, navigating the crowd that lines the perimeter. Nicole unexpectedly shows up next to us, her silver hair gleaming in the sunlight, her weathered face as composed as ever. She says plainly, "Luna, Alpha, please follow me." She turns and nearly glides to the middle of the clearing. Following her instructions, Finn and I take a few steps back, feeling as though everyone is watching us. Even though I know I was the innocent party in this situation, it feels like I'm going to go on trial or something. "Dreadmores," Nicole says, cutting through the soft murmur of voices. As it has been witnessed today, our victor remains as she was, Dahlia Winters, Dreadmore Luna. Dahlia all around us, clapping and cheers break out, followed by multiple howls. Among the crowds, I attract the attention of a few people, Jace, Brittany, and Brenda, Finn's family, and Nova. Even though they are my friends and acquaintances, I am also in charge of them, which makes it feel really weird. I am responsible for their safety and well-being. Finn's eyes are already fixed on me when I turn to face him. I feel like this moment is too good to be true, so I laugh despite myself. This moment, right here, was my greatest concern just a few short hours ago. Nicole says, "Jarvis Klassen," as we saw, calming the audience once more. After that, Nicole adds, "has been exiled." Recalling everything I learned about Jarvis in those brief seconds, I feel my stomach drop as this reality sinks in once more. I want to set the record straight, so I tell Nicole, it was her choice to leave. I was prepared to have her stay, I would have chosen that, but she asked to leave, instead. So I allowed it. Nicole gives me a contemplative nod before placing a hand on my arm and giving it a light pat. That is a kindness she did not deserve, Luna. I respond. A life within the Dreadmoors would have meant she'd have to live with the social consequences of this challenge every day. You've given her the opportunity to forge a new life without that. I take a deep breath, recalling all the sad memories and specifics of Jarvis's life that I was able to observe from her point of view. It's understandable why she ended up the way she is, and she should take action if she wishes to change that. However, I have my boundaries, and the Redemptionville ticket I gave her is a one-time, non-refundable, non-exchangeable, once-in-a-lifetime deal. I won't consider giving her another chance if she ever shows up at my door. Nicole's voice echoes, the challenge is now declared over. She cries, please, watch your step going back, and I can't help but smile at her as she plods along with the other crowds in the direction of home. I feel a body suddenly collide with mine, and the only thing that keeps me from falling over is Finn's hand supporting me on my back. Nova! I cry, almost out of breath, as she smothers me in a tight hug while her strawberry blonde hair covers my face. I laugh and say, I'm eating your hair, which makes her back off so I can see clearly. She exclaims, I was so horrifically worried about you, as tears well up in her eyes. She shouts, thank God you're okay, and wraps her arms around me once more while sniffling. She takes another sniff, and I give her a reassuring pat on the back. I was just about ready to jump in there and tear her off of you, she exclaims. I smile and say, well, good thing that wasn't necessary. Nova suddenly backs off. She exclaims, don't you dare go making light of this, and I give her a warm smile, a quick peck on the cheek, and another tight hug. I smile and say, I'm sorry, you're right, please forgive me. Nova laughs as I let her go. She shakes her head in dismay as Callum emerges through the crowds of people leaving, saying, oh, as if it's that easy to win me over. Gently, he reaches for Nova, bringing her close to him and kissing her on the top of her head. Callum looks up at Finn and me and says, you need rest, Nova. You've been a wreck the last 12 hours, let's get you home, yet, with a slight smile. Well done, Luna, that was seriously impressive. I laugh as Callum chooses his words. I turn to face Nova, who waves a hand at me while using a wad of tissue to further blot her eyes. Thanks, Callum. Please take good care of her. Callum puts his arm around Nova's shoulders and guides her towards the remaining individuals who are still escaping, saying, oh, you know I will. I turn to face Finn, but a smaller, well-known individual hits me in the side instead. When I look down, I see Miriam giving me a fierce middle hug. I smile and give her a similar embrace. She yells, her eyes wide, oh my good God, I was beside myself watching you do that, as she starts to back away. Greta, Corwin, and Sam also come over. I am so proud of you. The comeback you made. How did you convince her to back down? Miriam's relatives appear to be echoing her question as they stand behind her, all of their gazes fixed on me with curiosity and interest. I move a little uncomfortably, shrugging my shoulders and attempting to smile as easily as possible. I say, glancing briefly at Finn, whose eyes are fixed on the location where Jarvis vanished earlier in the treeline. I think she just realized there was nothing left for her to win here. His jaw flexes, and I can tell that the thought of her being free and going somewhere unknown probably makes him unhappy. She understood she would be better off trying to start a different life somewhere else, than trying to endure what would be left of the one she has here. I watch as my in-laws process this information, their eyes briefly averted and their eyebrows knitted in bewilderment as they try to make sense of what exactly happened and how it happened. Finn quickly wraps his arm around my waist and pulls me against him, indicating that he knows I don't want to go into further detail about how I mind-linked with Jarvis. He strokes my shoulder with his thumb in a sweeping motion and says, "Dahlia should get home, you've got to be completely drained." I laugh a little and rub my forehead before wincing when I see that I have a nasty bruise from the fight earlier. Ouch! Yeah, I reply, giving Finn's family a sheepish smile. I would really like a shower and a bed right now. These people are then giving me hugs and squeezes and reminding me again how much they love and support me. Greta says, "It was always meant to be you," as she presses the tip of her well-groomed fingernail into my chest, just above my heart, smiles knowingly. "I never doubted that the universe would see fit to keep you where you're supposed to be." I give Greta a smile before embracing her, feeling incredibly thankful for this unique chance to experience what it's like to have grandparents. A grandparent who genuinely cares about you, not just any grandparent. I pull away to see her blue eyes gleaming in the morning light and say, "Thank you, Greta. I'm glad too that I get to stay right where I am." She pats my cheek affectionately and sighs wistfully, "Oh, Fidelis would have liked you." She gives me a playful smirk and says, "I think I might make some pear tarts today to celebrate. Those were his favorite, you know, and one of my specialties." I chuckle. I say, "Please save some for me," as she starts to head home. Without turning around, she calls back to me, "I'll do my best, dear," and I can't help but smile. After saying goodbye to Riley and Charles, who had come to congratulate me, before Greta drew me away, Finn turns to face me. With a faint smile, Finn remarks, "You're a sight," reaching up to trace the delicate lines of the numerous cuts and bruises I've received on my face and neck. Finn's finger strikes a particularly painful spot directly along my jaw, causing me to wince and draw air in through my teeth. By this evening, they will be healed, but until I have more strength again, I will experience the same emotions as any other person. I agree with him, I'm sure I must be, and then I raise my eyebrows at him. But is it in a badass Luna holding her own kind of way, or more of a sad pathetic beat-up Luna, kind of way? With a laugh, Finn pulls me to him, covers my mouth with his, and puts his arms around me. His tongue moves languidly, probing my mouth open as I melt against him. As he slowly pulls back, I sigh as his tongue slides over mine, leaving me wanting more. "You," I ramble, keeping my eyes shut. I conclude, opening my eyes to see him gazing back with satisfaction, "never answered me." Finn says, "Definitely the Luna way," without hesitation. He starts guiding me in the direction of home, saying, "But I still think you'd feel better with a shower and a nap." We are now the only two people left in this enormous, deserted room. I concede his point as his hand takes mine and our fingers entwine. Likely. As we start to make our way through the trees, I ask, Finn. He responds in the same manner, Dahlia. I ask him, do you think there's something wrong with me? Not sure if that's the correct word to use. Because I'm mind-linking with people left, right and center when I'm either human, wolf, and slash or their enemy, all situations where it should be impossible for me to do. For a few long seconds, Finn doesn't respond, and I wonder what he's thinking at the moment. In an attempt to reassure me, he squeezes my hand and says, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with you, Dahlia. But I would say it's something worth looking at. It's extraordinary, if you ask me. Unlike anything I've ever heard of or seen, or experienced. As we continue to stroll through the well-known trees that encircle our house, his words stay with me because they are filled with awe. I'm welcomed into the shower by Finn, who lets me in and turns on the hot water as it pours down on us. We spend a lot of time there. Finn cleans my skin of all the blood and grime, and the primers and paints I used for my ritual preparations. I lean away from Finn just enough to look him in the eyes as the water rushes past us. I ask him, I hate to be the one to say it, but, we're not out of the woods yet, are we? And all I need to know is the regretful knowing expression in his eyes. The strikers, they're still out there, they're still gunning for us. Finn responds by flexing his arms around me. His voice is low and almost gravelly. I know, he says. With an almost guilty tone, he adds, it's all I've been able to think of, too. Not to overshadow what you accomplished because that was a massive victory, but they're definitely a greater threat than Jarvis. I can feel the annoyance radiating from him as he presses his mouth into a hard line, realizing how little control he's had over everything lately. I believe he is yearning to feel as though he still has some control over what occurs to and within his pack because so much of it has been totally out of his control. Hey, I say, attracting his attention and bringing his eyes to mine. He looks like a godly Greek statue left out in the rain as I cup his cheek in my hand and run water down his face, saying, that might be the case right now, but it won't be always. My chest constricts when I see the stormy expression on Finn's face. I feel my face and shoulders fall at the same moment as he says, I hate that I can't keep you safe. I ask him, what? I shake my head and tell him, Finn, that's absurd. I don't even want to consider the possibility. You keep me safe, you keep all of us safe, every day, being alpha. I try to remind him, but I'm not very hopeful because of the expressionless expression in his eyes. With his eyes now burning with a kind of rage I don't want to know myself, he shoots back, then why was I unable to do anything to prevent the challenge? To prevent how close Jarvis came to killing you. I let out a deep breath, unsure of how to respond at this moment that will please him. In the hopes that this will strike a chord with him, I say simply, because everyone has their limits, even those in positions of power. As the water continues to heat the air around us, I shrug and say, it wasn't your job to intervene, Finn. It's just what you wanted to do because you were having to see your mate fight for the right to be here, and to be with you. That was a completely natural reaction, and unfortunately, you were also completely unable to stop it. Just like anyone else would have been. After a few moments of silence, I feel Finn's hand putting pressure on the small of my back to pull me in closer. I close my eyes and let myself unwind into him as he puts his cheek on my hair. Finn finally exclaims, "It sucks to be like everyone else, and not have a say." I start laughing at this. I tease him by wriggling my eyebrows and observing his mischievous eyes light up. "Welcome to the real world, Alpha Finn." With a smile on my face and a rumbling laugh going through Finn's chest, I say, "It sucks." He smiles evilly and takes my chin in his hands, tilting my face in his direction. "Even after facing off with Jarvis, your smart mouth still doesn't know when to quit." I give him a different kind of challenge, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't ecstatic when he growls and pushes me against the shower wall, his mouth meeting mine. "I invite you to do what you must to convince it to." Finn. A long time later, I lay next to Dahlia, the opaque black curtains I've drawn over the windows blocking out the mid-afternoon light. Her face is tucked between her pillow and my bicep as she lies on her side with one arm extended across my chest. Now that the fight is over, her gentle breaths fan over my skin, reminding me of how frail she truly is. My mind flashes back to the combat challenge, and I remember the nauseating sensation of seeing Jarvis rip Dahlia's side apart, determined to kill her. This reality makes my wolf shiver. Jarvis had every intention of making sure Dahlia didn't survive that clearing. Is Dahlia somehow comfortable with Jarvis being out there now? The fact that Jarvis is still a threat, albeit an exiled one, somehow doesn't worry her in the least. All of these questions earlier made me bite my tongue. More than I deserved to satisfy my curiosity, I knew Dahlia deserved a chance to recover. However, now that I'm by myself and Dahlia is sleeping peacefully next to me, the questions are just endless. Additionally, there are questions about how Dahlia and Jarvis were even able to communicate while in wolf form, in addition to the specifics of their exchange. I've known for a while that Dahlia can mind link with me, of course, but I always thought that because of our connection, I would be the only person she could connect to. It never occurred to me that Dahlia could mind link with anyone, much less a wolf she was attempting to kill in battle. I glanced down at Dahlia's face, which is so calm and composed now that I have trouble recognizing the brave woman who strode into the battle ring without even looking back. Even though I know she is as dangerous as she is modest with her newfound abilities, she seems so innocent in this state. The memory of her standing over Jarvis, growling and barking at her and demanding that she give up, fills me with pride. Today, Dahlia asserted and fulfilled her title. I had previously recognized that her exile of Jarvis was her first genuine act as Dread Moraluna. I bend over and use my palm to smooth Dahlia's hair down before kissing her. I roll silently off the edge of the bed and slip out from under her outstretched arm as quietly as possible. I grab the doorknob as I cross the room to it and glance back over my shoulder to make sure I didn't wake her. When I'm satisfied, I slip out the door and close it behind me, but Dahlia doesn't move except for her chest rising and falling. I started walking towards the Elder Council building through the woods. Dahlia is the only person who is aware of her capabilities, so I must currently ask that person for advice or ideas on what to do next. As I entered the building, I noticed that the common room was populated by the same elderly people. Nicole is in her spot, sitting in the rocking chair by the fireplace, working on her crochet. When I get close, she looks up at me with particularly analytical silver eyes behind her glasses. She sits up straighter in her seat and puts her crochet down in her lap. "Alpha," she says to me, I didn't expect to see you so soon following the challenge. She asks me, how is Luna Dahlia? In order to sit across from Nicole, I grab the vacant chair that is positioned off to the side, against the wall, and pull it closer. I nod and put my hands together, saying, as well as you'd expect better, maybe. She's resting now, but she's in good spirits. Nicole smiles subtly and nods in agreement with me. She says, all of that sounds like good news. However, the way she says that raises an unanswered question: why are you here if all of this is good news? I give her a stern look, and she nods in agreement before getting up from her chair. I think we should step outside, if you don't mind, Viv. I ask. Nicole turns and heads for the stairs that lead to the elders' rooms, saying, of course, let me fetch my shawl. After a minute, she comes back, and I hold the door open for her as we walk through the garden in the same way that we did when I first approached her about this. We take a seat on the bench around the garden's edge. Nicole gives me a fresh look of interest, and I take a moment to gather my thoughts before continuing. It does all sound like good news, yes, but I'm just so confused about how everything happened between her and Jarvis. Dahlia told you. How do you think it's possible she mind-linked while fighting an enemy? That goes against one of the biggest laws of werewolf existence, or at least what I thought was one. I raise my voice briefly before recognizing that we're very open with each other. Nicole takes a few moments to think before answering. It certainly came to be useful for her in the challenge, regardless of how strange it is. Nicole emphasizes. With a gentle smile, she confesses to me, but I understand your wonderings. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't also mulling it over myself. I cannot explain it, Alpha, and it seems as though you can't either. I shake my head and laugh helplessly. I say, Nicole, I don't have a clue. She laughs at my response. I clench my jaw at the absurdity of Nicole's explanation. Again, the only real thing I could recommend to you would be the shaman. I've done some research since we last spoke, and I have it on good authority from an old friend that she is still practicing, and still assisting those who seek her out. I shake my head and murmur, shaman. I lash out at Nicole, feeling more than a little suspicious and protective of Dahlia, asking, how do we even know who this lady is, and why she chooses to help people? What's in it for her? Nicole shrugs with ease. I bite the inside of my cheek when Nicole says, well, I imagine you'd need to ask her yourself. She's based not far from here, just up the coast, near the Oregon border outside Smith Creek. A part of me wants to keep Dahlia as far away from this shaman woman as possible, and another part of me just wants to go see her and get some answers. The problem is that I'm not sure which to pick. I tell her, this keeps happening, Viv, and more often. I don't want to look at it like something to fear or something Dahlia should hide, but it is. Nicole completes my sentence for me as I can't think of the right word. Startling. I nod firmly. I concur. Yes, startling. I sigh and run my hand through my hair, saying, but Dahlia seems to be coping so well with it. There's a part of me that thinks maybe I'm better off leaving this whole thing alone. Let it be. Pulling her shawl tighter around her slender frame, Nicole pauses to reflect. Her mouth opens into a soft smile and she says, you very well could, Alpha. There's something to be said for that old saying, ignorance is bliss. She laughs, and since I know how true she is, I can't help but join in. But if I know you, and I know your father, you've inherited the most stubborn of genes. I don't know that you'll be so willing to let this go. I give in and say, I can't argue with you there, Viv. I can't seem to get the thought out of my head. But, I can't bring myself to say shaman. Perhaps we could return inside, and you could write down the name of this lady you're talking about, near Oregon. If I do, my logical side will prevail and I won't even bother investigating this woman. Nicole looks at me slyly and gets to her feet. She takes my arm in hers and nods, saying, I can definitely do that for you, Alpha. Then we head back towards the building. The name and address of the woman in Oregon are written on a little piece of stationery that I hold in my fingers as I say goodbye to Nicole. I hasten back to the house in the hopes of returning before Dahlia awakens. I hear absent-minded humming coming from the kitchen as I get closer to the front door, but I realize it's too late. Dahlia is pouring water from a still steaming kettle with her back to me, her hair haphazardly piled on top of her head as I enter the house. Without turning away, she talks to me while filling the big orange pottery mug that is resting on the counter. She says, I hope you had good reason for leaving me here to wake up alone. The truth of what she says makes me feel guilty. Abruptly, I realize that I still have Nicole's note in my hand, and I hastily stuff it into my jeans back pocket. Dahlia turns to look up at me as I walk across the floor and wrap my arms around her waist. Dahlia has drowsy, humorous blue eyes, and I frown when I notice a big, dark bruise growing along her cheek and temple. I gently run my fingers over the bruise and say, I'm sorry, I was expecting to be back before you were up. I look for any indications of distress or concealed pain on her face and ask, how are you? How do you feel? Dahlia grins and lets out a little laugh. She holds my hand and pulls it away from her face, saying, I was only teasing, you know. And I feel fine, Finn, I promise. She laughs and shakes her head, saying, I thought all your worrying was going to stop after the big showdown. I close the distance between us to just an inch as I lean down to her. I draw her nearer to me with my free hand. Her gasp is lost on my tongue as I whisper, You're the single most precious thing to me in this world. How do you expect me to stop worrying about you? Before taking her mouth. I tilt Dahlia's chin up, letting me intensify the kiss while she lets out a gentle moan. Before settling there, her hands trail up to my neck and land on my chest. Dahlia puts her arms around my middle and rests her face against my chest as I pull back. I give her the same gesture, keeping her close to me for a few extended seconds. She straightens up and holds her steaming mug of tea in both hands, saying, It almost doesn't feel real, does it? It's over now, and yet, it also isn't. Dahlia places herself on one of the bar stools at the counter, and I follow her, leaning on the counter next to her. It's peppermint, the scent calms me. She sips her tea and nods when I say, You mean the strikers? I know. I feel as though a lead ball is balanced on my shoulders due to the weight of this knowledge. I put it in the simplest terms I can think in at the moment, but this has got me feeling better capable. We've neutralized one threat, now we get ready for another. Dahlia gives a contemplative nod, and I'm curious about her current state of mind. Although she can assure me that she is okay, I imagine that facing Jarvis and almost dying was extremely traumatic. I say to her, I want to talk about something else, first. She looks at me, and her eyes quickly meet mine. I just say, Jarvis. What happened? Dahlia moves in her chair, and I pay close attention to how her throat bobs when she takes a forceful swallow. Right, she says, taking a deep breath and then exhaling with a sigh. She confesses, so, I thought I was done for a second. The thought of her near death makes my heart tighten. I recall how it felt to watch Dahlia fade and almost phasing. Clearly reliving the moment, she says with a detached expression in her eyes, but then, I don't know, Finn, it was like this insane heat, like fire, but it almost felt good? I don't know, it just spread through me and little by little, I was coming back. Her fingers are extra warm from her tea mug, so I carefully fold them into mine as I slide my hand across the counter to take one of hers. Still baffled, she continues, then I mind-linked with her, and I was able to see, hear, feel everything, like usual. Dahlia looks at me with fear in her blue eyes and says, but I don't know what this means, why this keeps happening, am I going crazy, or something? This is what I was afraid would happen. She cannot leave believing that she is going insane or something. In particular, she is the last person who needs this. Squeezing her hand, I instantly suppress the thought, of course not, Dahlia. I hold her gaze for a few more beats to make my point, but when she looks away, I'm not sure if she believes me. You're the furthest thing from delusional, and face it, you had witnesses. We all saw you get back up somehow, we all saw you outsmart Jarvis. You're not crazy, not in the slightest. I can't help but straighten up and take her face in my hands, tucking her curls away on either side of her head as I do. She laughs uneasily, saying, thankfully you all saw it too, if you hadn't, I think I really would think I'm losing it. As far as I'm concerned, as long as we're together, we're not losing anything. Not you, not me, no one. Dahlia's hands rise to cover my own as I watch the corners of her mouth pull upward. I slide my hands away and lean back against the counter, saying, but I want to know what happened next, with Jarvis. Dahlia takes a sip of her tea and nods before continuing her tale. She shakes her head in shock, saying, after we linked, it's like I got a one-way ticket to the entire history of Jarvis Klassen. It was shocking, Finn, the amount of personal information I was able to garner from her in mere seconds. I mean, it was like I'd lived her entire life alongside her, from her earliest memories up to the ones that were passing through her head at that exact moment. All of it. Dahlia looks down at her cup of tea. I gained a whole new perspective of her. I furrow my brows in an attempt to make sense of this new information. Dahlia can access people's past memories, apparently all of them, in addition to mind-linking while human. How in hell is that even possible? What does this signify? I shake my head and ramble, I can only guess how much you learnt about Jarvis. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.